found a lump by accident. So for the whole week I was telling my friends and family, I was like, I think I've got cancer. And they were like, no.
Yeah.
And I was really hoping they were wrong, but I knew it. The cancer thing threw my world as I knew it into disarray. Start seeing your life as your soulmate. And actually, like when things happen, like you said, things work out for me. If one day you miss a train and you can't go somewhere, it's finding what else presents itself that day. And maybe that's what you needed. Rather than seeing like trauma or things not working out, bad breakups, work as moments of crisis, see them as moments of opportunity. Rather than putting energy into finding someone that will fill this void in my life, I have created a life that is so abundant in love. It's friends, it's family, it's the way I love myself, it's my work. Like you're pushing on this door that won't bloody open, but there's a window ajar. What are you doing?
Welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for joining me. I'm very excited to have you today. I want to get straight into things because I want to talk to you a lot more than just about your diagnosis and kind of the story of that. If you can kind of set the scene, give us a little bit of background on your general story, how you got to where you are today, that would be super helpful.
Of course, my love. So yeah, I am now approaching the ripe old age of 38. I'm looking good though, don't worry about it. And when I was 31, out of nowhere, I got breast cancer, and I was at the point in my life where like I kind of just moved out of home properly, was moving in with friends. I felt like, you know, your early 30s, you're really starting to form yourself as a person. I had my first job, like managerial role in social media. I'd done digital marketing for years, really loved it. And out of nowhere, like just this diagnosis, no family history or anything. And it completely shook my world, as you can imagine. Yeah. But the most amazing thing about it was, you know, you go through something so traumatic, but I kind of harnessed all of the skill sets that I had beforehand. So like all the creative elements, blogging, like influencer marketing, social media to create this online community called Girl versus Cancer, which now is a charity. Come on.
Amazing.
So yeah, I was sick and I was young and I really struggled to find women like me to talk to. And that's me as a white cis het woman. But everything was elderly and clinical and cold and like just didn't speak to me. And I felt very isolated. And also people like, they give the head tilt.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, you've got cancer. And it did my head in. So I thought, let me talk about my cancer in my way, in the hope that another girl like me will find me and will go, oh, that's more like me.
Yes.
And it just ended up blossoming into this wonderful community. Yeah. And then also along came the podcast, You, Me and the Big C, which I'm so proud of, with myself, Rachael Bland, and Dame Deborah James. And we created that, again, to have a conversation around cancer. To change the dialogue, because everything we hear, you know, if you think of an advert on telly, when you think of cancer, you think of sad, very
piano
sick,
music in the background,
piano music, really forlorn, like bald, scary, and we weren't that. And I think we were kind of fed up of this narrative around the disease, and all it does is hinder people from getting checked, makes people feel isolated when they've got it. So just by sitting in a room, like me and you could go down the pub now and talk about dogs, work, boys.
Yeah, it's not your identity.
Yeah, we just got in the room and talked about cancer because it was something that bonded us. And it's gone on to do amazing things. So now, you know, I'm 5 years cancer-free. I am the founder of a charity. I run my own business, my own personal brand. I do a lot of advocacy work. I'm a dog mum. I live on my own. And yeah, I do the podcast, You Mean the Big C, which is coming to an end. And it's just a very... Yeah, I look back at the last 5 years. 5 years is a big milestone, right? Isn't it?
Of course.
And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm just at this real big turning point in my life, really.
So right before the diagnosis, as you said, completely unexpected, no family history, wasn't something that you were kind of particularly looking out for. What stage were you at in your life at that time? So you were 31,
yes,
right, I'm thinking. And what had kind of the past few years been like for you?
Partying, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Good. That's what we like to hear.
It's drugs and dick. I'm not gonna lie. That was it. Little bit of work thrown in.
I really enjoy that.
Yes, that's me, babes. I used to say I operated a legs open, heart closed policy. I'd been very much burned in the past. And I was just living my life. And I just think, I was always I'm a very social butterfly, and I just feel like I kind of started coming into my own in my late 20s, felt more confident, I was going out more, finding my feet. And again, in work, like I was part of that era of digital. So my first job, straight out of uni, I was interning and then got a job at Firetrap.
Okay.
Which is now like the Mike Ashley brand, but back then it was cool.
Yeah.
As in like one of the first events I ever worked on, Lady Gaga performed.
Oh my God, unreal.
I know, it was big. So I loved that job, but it was traditional marketing. And then the website launched and I went into digital marketing.
Yeah.
And it was me, one guy who did customer service and the ecom manager. That was it.
Really?
I did the marketing. So I did like all the banners and all that jazz. It was so small. So I really started in digital when digital started and worked my way through. So just before I got sick, I'd found my niche.
Yeah.
I loved doing social media. I loved influencer marketing.
What I find really great about that in the way that you describe that is that I think we have I know that we have such a problem in society with like turning 30. Like this whole thing of it being like, it's the way we like look at it and talk about it is this like completely artificial like decline. And it's like, no, okay, if you're assuming that, you might have come out of uni or school like a decade before, you have that 10 years to kind of like one of the best pieces of advice someone gave on the podcast was essentially just being like, you're essentially training yourself and finding out what you like on other people's money. Like you're in a job, you're getting training, you're working with people, like you're finding this all out on other people's money. And you can basically use it as a playground to do that, to chop and change careers, to try new things, all of this. There is no world in which we'd expect in the first like 10 years of that for that to be, I don't know, like well underway in your career.
Yeah.
And I love the way that you say that actually coming to that point, and I don't know if that's in hindsight or how you felt at the time, but really being like, oh, I'm starting to really know my shit now. I'm starting to know what direction I want to go in, and I'm really good at this. Like, this is my niche.
Yeah, do you know what? I had to say, I never thought I was any good at anything. Before I was poorly, genuinely, I felt, I still do have imposter syndrome, but in a different way. I just felt like I knew what I liked, so I'd go for it. But what I now know is the way that my brain works and how I am as a person. I thought I was this type of person. I didn't think I was creative. I thought I was quite logical and da-da-da. And actually, I now know that I'm a very creative brain. I was always the kid at school who would do the maths working out and I'd get the right answer, but they'd be like, you've worked out the wrong way. I'm like, what?
Right.
Care?
Yeah.
What? How can you work something out the wrong way? I've got the right answer. So I always went into jobs and then I'd find at around the 6 month to a year point, I'd get very bored very quickly because I was having to do all those like reporting bits and this bit, and I couldn't. Yeah. I just couldn't, because give me the numbers and I know what, I'm like, yeah, cool, I can learn from that. But actually working the numbers out and doing that stuff, hell no. So I would always think I was crap at my job, and I'd always think like I'd get bored and I'd put things off and I'd get into trouble. So it took a lot of learning in that time, but it was good because I started to figure out, okay, the reason why I don't like this is because it's too analytical. Okay, I need to move into something more creative. Let's try this. I even went freelance randomly for a year, just hated my old job, quit it, went off traveling at 26, and then came back and I was freelance. I worked for Sophia Webster. Like I did like all her social media. I started off the hashtag SWHQ. That were me.
She is here.
I am she. I just started to really figure out in that way, but it was a lot of trial and error, and it was very uncertain and very unstable, I would say. Yeah. I'd say it wasn't until I got sick and started to do my own thing that I actually felt confident in my skill set.
So I guess it was, a little bit in hindsight, you feel like that was the point that you were coming to this like culminating point of really understanding what you wanted to do with your career and your niche and all of that. And around the time of the diagnosis, and we won't spend too much time on this, but just in terms of kind of what led to your diagnosis, would you mind talking about that just quickly? Yeah,
I mean, I found a lump by accident, and I'll be perfectly honest, I spoke about this a lot of time. I was pleasuring myself and I grabbed my breast in ecstasy and there was a lump. I wasn't checking my boobs.
Right, yeah.
I have small breasts. I didn't think I'd have to worry. I thought I'd notice if anything changed. Yeah. And I didn't even think about breast cancer. I thought breast cancer meant you had to have breasts. And I've never had a relationship with my chest because it's so small. So it was a shock. So I thought it was a cyst. I've had cysts in my ovaries for years, like cysty kind of gal. Yeah. So I just thought, oh, it's a cyst. And I didn't think anything of it. But when it didn't go away, it was my best friend and my mum. My best friend and I were in a tent in Glastonbury. It was so funny. And a bit worse for wear. And I went, feel this. So she felt it. She went, that's big. I went, it is, isn't it? It's sore.
Yeah.
So you need to get that checked, mate. So we just go and get it checked. It's probably a
Yeah.
cyst. So when I came back from Glastonbury, I just moved house. So I didn't have a GP. So I went to a walk-in clinic in a hospital near me. And I said, look, can you just check this? I've got a lump. It's not going away. It's sore. Just sort it out, basically. And they felt it. They went, yeah, it's a significant lump, but you're young, no family history. We're not worried. You need to be referred by a GP. And I'm like, well, I'm in a hospital. You're not just scanning me now. Like, this is long.
Also, the UK, I will say, because like I've like had 2 separate lumps. I got them checked. They've all been like relatively fast. Like as in like they are quite. I would say that you know. The NHS is really fucking good with cancer. Like, as in, like, they're really, like, quick, do this within a week. It was pre-pandemic. Now it's in a bit of a shaky way. Right. That's a whole other podcast space. But, yeah, no, like, when I did get referred eventually, it was like 3 months later. It's because... Really? Yeah, because I just didn't... Because I'd left that place and he said... You need also, if they say you don't need to be concerned, it's the doctor. Like, they're the ones who... And I was in the hospital and I didn't have a GP at that point and I wasn't rushing to get one. Like, it was the middle of summer. I just moved in with a new group of friends. I was having the best time ever. Like, the last thing I wanted to be doing was going to the doctors, like, worrying about something. And I genuinely didn't think it would be cancer. Like, why would it be? So I went off and it was only my mum at like, the end of July, beginning of August, like, have you had that checked again? I was like, no. She went, Lauren, go and get it done, please. She was like, just write it off then. And I was like, all right, cool. And by then, luckily, I could go and register. And I have to say, again, the receptionists at my GP were phenomenal. I literally stood there, gave them the form to register. They said, Lauren, you know, they said, we'll give you a call in 2 weeks for triage and what they do to get you booked in properly. And I said, I've actually found a lump, and they registered me on the spot. Really? I was in the GP 3 days later. That's amazing. And another 3 days later, I was in the breast clinic, and I had biopsies and everything done that day. So within 2 weeks, I was diagnosed. Wow. So it was very, as much as it was short, now knowing what I know about cancer and the work that I do, that period of time, a lot could have changed. Sure. And that's what scares me. Because I'm like, that could have been a very different picture because I'd just gone off and left it. And that's what I think, looking back now, the frustration of how the structure of the NHS can sometimes work, or certain trusts of the NHS work, is that I was in the hospital presenting with a lump 3 months before, and I was diagnosed in the same hospital. When actually I could have got diagnosis there and then and just gone straight in and maybe would have avoided chemo or something, you know? It does make a difference. Yeah, of course. And in that time, in that kind of space of 2 weeks that you had, you know, the biopsy and then got the diagnosis, what... I assume once you'd kind of had that biopsy, I assume you probably weren't really thinking about it? No, opposite actually. Oh, really? Because of the consultant. Right. So she felt it. She was like, yeah, let's go and check it. And the thing is, they know what they're looking at. They do it every day. And when I was on that table and they were ultrasounding it, like, they were just chatting, all really cool and everything. And then all of a sudden, like, the radiologist or radiographer, I'll never get it right, called the consultant over and was like, what do you think to this? And they were looking. And I was like, oh, I don't know how this is going. And then I had to have a biopsy. Rang my mum in tears because I don't like needles, which is so ironic now because I've been prodded and poked so much. But yeah, and they said, well, biopsy it. And I was like, okay. And then I went back to see the oncology consultant, who was like the initial person who checked you. Did they call you in? Yeah, you sit in a corridor. Everyone who's had a biopsy or a scan and they found something that they want to check, they will go back and see the consultant. So I went in and she said, okay, so we found something suspicious. We biopsied it. We will be back in contact with you next week. Come into the clinic, bring someone with you. If it's cancer, we'll start talking about. And I was like, Right, so the second they start being, yeah, and it's the way to like bring someone with you. And I was like, but what if it's not cancer? Yeah, then I've just wasted someone's day. And she just went, have you had a trauma to the breast? And I said, not that I'm aware of. She went, we'll see you in a week and bring someone with you. And she was telling me without telling me. They know what they know. So for the whole week, I was telling my friends and family, I was like, I think I've got cancer. And they were like, no. Yeah. And I was really hoping they were wrong, but I knew it. Yeah. I did. So it was carnival. I was out partying for that week. I was like enjoying myself because I had a hunch it might be like that for a while. So yeah. Yeah. And then you got a call, you came back in, you got the diagnosis. Yeah. What was your immediate mindset in that moment? I thought I was going to die. Yeah. And then when they told me I wasn't, I was like, what do you mean? That's what cancer does. Right. And then they asked me if I wanted kids. And I was like, hang on a minute. I can't take this all in. Do I want kids? I've got cancer. I don't know. Like, I haven't had sex back in ages. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And that was the kind of stuff that really drew me to start doing Girl vs. Cancer, because there was all these things. You think of cancer and you just think death,
and being bald for a while. That's what you're shown. You don't think of all the nuances. So then it's like my work, my home, my friendships, relationships, sex, fertility, all these things, all of a sudden you're just like, oh yeah, they will be impacted as well. And I was having to navigate that.
And I'm sure in terms of the resources that are out there, because the picture of cancer is older and it's kind of portrayed in that way, I'm sure when you then pop on Google and say, I've been asked if I want kids today because I've just got a diagnosis, probably a lot of people, because statistically it's going to be older diagnoses, they're past that point. So I can imagine there wasn't that much out there to help you.
No, and that's why I spoke so openly about it. And I was really lucky that we had time, because of the stage my cancer was at, to do the egg retrievals. I always say I've got 9 eggs on ice.
Yeah.
And they're 31-year-old eggs. So like I could be 50-year-old and go, sure, why not? Yeah. I'm just gonna like fertilize these eggs. I could do a Kardashian and not carry them. Just like do the whole 9 eggs maybe, and like create my own like cleaning company or football team. There's business to be made in these eggs.
Choir.
I could just like, I'm really, really struggling to find good stuff. I would just breed them and raise them.
Gorgeous.
Wonderful. So yeah, they're there if I want them. And I'm so grateful for that. But that time was so strange, because I just felt like I adulted very hard within 24 hours.
There's nothing like trauma to grow you up in a second.
Very quickly. And nothing like trauma that could kill, like something that could actually end your life. Yeah. And I think that was the moment, mate, where I kind of was like, right, all of a sudden, those weeks between diagnosis and chemotherapy starting were when I really just kind of sat there and I was like, I have been wasting so much of my life. I have been numb to it through drugs and drink and sex. I've not been allowing myself real connection. I've been doubting myself in work. I've been comfortably numb. I was waiting for life to happen to me. That's what I was doing. I was 31. I was like, I will all work out in the end. And all of a sudden I was like, but what if the end is sooner than I think it is? And I haven't actually made any real effort to progress my life in the way that I want. What do I actually want? And it really does shake you up in that respect. And I think, if I would say anything is a gift out of something so traumatic, is that it has made me a better person. It has made me live fuller. It's made me take risks. It's made me love harder. And I would not have been doing that if it hadn't been for the illness. I don't think I would have. I think it would take me to my like mid-40s for me to find that about myself.
And people always do say that. You see those kind of like Twitter threads where it's like someone on their deathbed. They're saying like, oh, these are the 10 things, and you read them over and over and you're like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I'm working for this promotion, so actually like I'm not going to see any friends, and I'm not going to spend time in my relationship, or I've had trauma and therefore like I'm not going to open up to anyone, or whatever it might be. What were the like immediate biggest things that you, I guess, changed in that way? I mean, your mindset, I'm sure, was taken up fully by survival and, getting through the next few months, the next year and everything. But I can imagine there were some irreversible changes literally in that moment in terms of the way you look around when you're outside and all of that.
I call it the fuck it button. And I think you like, all of a sudden you're just like, I need to tell people I love them. I need to book this trip. I've realized now that my trauma response is doing. So in everything in life, like if something bad happens, I'll throw myself into something, whether that be a relationship, whether that be partying, whether it be work. I do. And what happened was when I got sick, I was like, I need to do something. And I think it was distraction almost. So like the next day, I remember my really like best friends, Sajal and Becca, like Becca lived around the corner from my mum and I was back at my mum's because it was all a lot. And Sajal came to see me and we were walking through the park and I said to my mum, I wasn't checking my boobs. Young women aren't checking the boobs. I'm going to make t-shirts. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get all the influencers, because I worked in influencer marketing, like to like promote them, and we're going to raise money and we're going to raise awareness. And they were all like, yeah. And when I started chemo and I spent a lot of time at home, and you'd be on steroid highs for like 3 days, mate, you don't sleep. You're on steroids and you're like, must be like a pill in the club, like, can't stop, won't stop. So my mum would wake up in the morning, like at 3 a.m, go to the toilet. She's like, what are you doing? Get off your laptop. Hello, son, this is Raymond. Like, get off your laptop. What are you doing? Like, you should be resting. I'm like, I can't rest. I'm on steroids, mother. But I channeled all of that into Girl vs. Cancer. I was in my mum and dad's house and I just needed to channel that energy into something. I couldn't just feel like a victim of what I was going through. And that was the way I felt to do it. And, that's what I mean by all my skill sets came together to help other people, and in a way that I never could have predicted before I got sick. So like all of a sudden, it's like everything I knew about marketing, everything I knew about social media, my aesthetic eye, I love photography, I love talking and writing. Everything like all the people I knew in influencer land, which were big names, you know, like I started with them. I used to blog myself. So it all felt so natural. It wasn't like, oh, I really sat and strategized this. Like I literally just did what felt natural in the moment. And all I wanted to do was help other women who might find themselves in my situation in the future. I never thought about it being a long-term career. I wanted to just make a difference, and I just wanted to survive this. And, you know, it just kept growing and moving. And every single time I like challenged myself and thought, I wonder if I could get into like a big brand and make t-shirts. I wonder if I could get this person to come into the campaign. I wonder if I could get volunteers, things I would never ask for help for. What have I got to lose? Am I going to die? If someone says no, no. So I just went, let's give it a go. And the minute I stopped putting things off, and the minute I stopped doubting whether it would happen, things happen. And I'm sure you can relate to that in terms of your business, like backing yourself and going,
what's the worst that can
no
happen?
risk, no reward is my thing.
Yeah.
And I, you know, don't ask, don't get is my big motto in life. I'm like, I'm just going to ask. People could think I'm cheeky. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for a good cause. So I will always ask the question. If it's a no, it's a no. I don't take it personally.
Yeah.
I think I did before I got sick. I took it very personally.
So let's talk about those biggest mindset shifts that you had, and like the biggest, I guess, changes in the way you see life, the way you live life. What do you think, I guess the biggest one then from what you've said is that kind of like, fuck it, what's the worst that can happen? Like just go all in, live.
Yeah.
What would you say the other things that you kind of really learned were?
I think it's a big takeaway for me. You're the master of your own destiny, not the victim of your circumstance. And I think a lot of people will sit and go, life's tough and I can't do this, I can't. And it's like, whoa. I think people think going for things in life and shifting things and going for big dreams that you want is this big moment and everything falls into place. It's not. It's tiny little actions every single day over a really long time, but you can get there. And so that's, for me, was the big mindset shift. It's like, I'm looking where I am now. You mean the Big C's coming to an end. My community is now a charity. That is 6 years of work. That is 6 years of just following my gut instinct. Another thing that is, I know that if you do anything with integrity and that lights you up and you follow that breadcrumb, mate, you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
It's I think saying yes and going down past that, you force yourself down a road you shouldn't be going down. And if you just stop for a minute and go, that door's closed, that's closed for a reason. So what is opening up for you? How do you pivot? Because I really believe life finds a way. Yeah. And if you actually follow your instinct and your gut and make those small decisions, and you'll make, prime example, right? Sorry, I'm like, blah, blah, blah.
No, please.
Last year I moved in on my own. I was in a point this time last year, where I didn't know what my living situation would be. Both my flatmates were moving out. I was mentally in a very, very bad way. I now know it was a bad state of like almost like psychosis. I was so anxious and unwell that it sent me loops. And I hadn't been looking after myself properly. And I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to leave this home. I've made it so nice. I need to get new flatmates. But then the thought of having strangers in my home was like, ooh. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like, this opportunity opened up. One of my best friends had this home in Leighton, and she was moving out to move to Lisbon. And she was like, do you want to take over the tenancy? I'm renting it off a friend. There's no deposit. It's affordable. It's £200 more than I was paying. Right. But because of my mindset then, because I was in a bad way, I was like, £200 more, I can't afford it. I've got all this furniture, it won't fit in the house. All of these reasons to not, because I was so stuck and stubborn and forcing myself to stay in a situation. And the minute I woke up, like 4 days later, bolt upright in bed on the Monday, I was like, what am I doing? Sell the furniture. If it's too much to pay in rent, ask for a reduction, ask if you could do it. Yeah. So I asked the question. She said, yeah, I can take you down £200. I said, can I like move all your furniture out, make sure I can bring mine in so I can make it really my home? Can I repaint? Yes. So I was like, okay, so all the questions that are stopping me.
I've worked myself into a little like cycle on it in the past few days.
So I was like, okay. And then I was like, all right. So then I made the decision. And when I tell you I made that decision, everything started to click in my life. And it made me just realize, like, there's these key moments where nothing is moving, like you're pushing on this door that won't bloody open, but there's a window ajar. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And that's been a big mindset shift for me as well, because the cancer thing threw my world as I knew it into disarray. It pulled the rug. So I had to kind of reevaluate all my plans. So what it's taught me is that life is gonna go way different. Like, that best laid plans things. Really annoying. But I think as long as you follow your true north, as long as you like take a beat and go, okay, rather than seeing like trauma or things not working out, bad breakups, work, like losing your job as moments of crisis, see them as moments of opportunity. And
it can be both trauma and crisis, and also an opportunity. Like, as in, like, I think we're really quick to like put something in a box of like, because it helps us make sense of it. Like, if you put something in a box of like, this is really shit, or like, this has made, this has ruined my plans, or I thought I was gonna marry this person, or I thought I was going to do this career, and whatever it might be. Like, it can be both incredibly traumatic and also like an opportunity. I think one of you saying about that kind of life finding a path for you, I saw a TikTok the other day.
Oh, we stand a TikTok.
We stand a TikTok.
Inspirational quotes.
And it actually, I've thought about it a lot, and it was one of those ones that I kind of scrolled past at the time and thought I wasn't, just like thought I didn't really, it was one of those things that you've thought about before. So it's not like changed my life. But then I can't stop thinking about it. And it was these two girls sitting in the car, and they were basically being like, last year we decided to just start thinking of ourselves as really lucky people. As in, like, anything that happened just started being like, oh yeah, things just always work out for us. So like, say you go to the gym and it's shut, and you'd finally got yourself off, out of your house and got there, and then you're like, actually, I don't need to have a workout. It's like, things just work out for us. Or like, like, I don't know, something good happens, telling yourself things just work out for you. And I kind of like scrolled past this, and I've like actually started doing it in the past week, whatever it is, like, just like having a bad day, and then like everything's thrown in there, and then there's like one little like good thing or whatever, and it's like, things just work out for me, or it's bad and it's like, things just work out for me. And it's like, if you tell yourself that constantly, like, I'm really bad at like when people ask me if I've had a good day, because they're like, how's your day been? Because I would say like my job is largely stressful. I'm really bad at being like, it's been okay, it's been, quite stressed. Like, I won't make a thing of it. It's not like I'm gonna be like, it's been terrible. But like, I will tell myself that it's been a really stressful day. And it's like, right, but if you're saying this every single day, then you're telling yourself over and over that a normal day is incredibly stressful and like rocks you every single day. And I've just like started like little by little being like, no, I've had a good day. I've had a good day. There's been tough points, but I've had a really good day. And like, the tiniest mindset shift, and I know it kind of sounds so stupid, but like trying for the next few days just to be like, no, things just work out for me.
Because that is the thing, like the way we talk to ourselves is so major, like what we put out into the world, and how like I'm the first person, I'm the biggest hype girl of everyone in my life. I buzz off the people around me. I love to see them thrive. Anything I can do to support that, I'm in. And but the way my mind will talk to me about the things that I do. So yesterday I had some amazing meetings about Girl vs. Cancer. Things that I have been dreaming about for the last year are all starting to happen. And it's overwhelming. Now, I've had to have a mindset shift. I've had to have a mindset shift in that, yes, it's overwhelming, but it's overwhelming with opportunity. I'm more than capable of handling this if I do it in the right way. By the way, we could talk about your planner after. Game changer.
I paid her to say that.
Yes. The clause and the pre-order link. You can't, it's gone. But I genuinely have to sit there sometimes and be like, yes, it's overwhelming, but the only reason I ever feel stressed with overwhelm is because I put the pressure on myself to do it all now, do it on my own, to know. I went into having cancer, never have run a business, never have run a charity, never have put myself in the public eye so vulnerably. I am learning on the job. So why am I putting this pressure on myself to know what it's like to hire a team, to know how to go out and get donations and funding, to know these things? All of a sudden last year it's not my job to know all these things. It's my job to be me and then to get people who know what the fuck they're doing and work with me we can make a bigger difference. And the minute I had that mindset shift and go, these amazing things have happened. I've had a stressful day, but it's a stressful day because all of this has come at once.
I
And
know.
it's amazing.
I don't know when it like changed for me and when I started being such a, not like a Debbie Downer because I'm quite like a positive person, but when I did consistently start telling myself that my life was not hard, but it was incredibly stressful. It's like, sure, but you know when someone's like, yeah, how are you? And it's like, yeah, I'm busy.
Yeah.
And they're like, if they reply like, oh, great, amazing, busy's good. And you're like, yeah, you know what it is.
It is
Like,
good.
why am I telling myself, like with all of this opportunity I've got with like work, with seeing friends, with all of this, like, why am I telling myself this is saturated with like bad, stressful things? Sure, it's stressful, and it's stressful because it's pushing you and it's putting you out of your comfort zone, and it's maybe and sure, there are times where you've overfilled it, but you've overfilled it because you've been overfilled with opportunity and like all of that, just being able to tell yourself like, I'm trying so hard this year, like classic new year, new me, like more new year, new like mindset. Just like stop telling yourself you're tired. Stop telling yourself you're exhausted. Stop telling yourself your day's been stressful. Start telling yourself like, yeah, it's been a good day. Like had a few tough meetings, but like, you know, I get those meetings because I get those meetings.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. And I'm quite, I would say spiritual, I don't know, like I'm one of those, I love like moon cycles and all this stuff. Like today is Friday the 13th and I've had messages from mates today, like, oh, Friday the 13th. And I'm like, no, but Friday the 13th, my nan used to say is a lucky day. And then really weirdly, it popped up on my feed, like this wonderful author and like witch, Lisa Lister, she's amazing. Her book, Witch, actually changed my life and like made me as a woman, like really understand myself a lot more. But she has put up today that the reason why Friday the 13th was seen as like bad is patriarchal, because it was claimed as the witch's number because there's 13 moon cycles in the year, and women have like 13 periods. So they've always seen the 13 as like a really powerful, potent number. And I thought, oh my God, that's so weird that's popped up, because my nan always said it was a lucky day. I didn't understand why. And she and another person have said in like on their social medias or like on podcasts, start seeing your life as your soulmate. Your life what's best for you. So if you imagine your life as your best mate, and actually like when things happen, like you said, things work out for me. If one day, you know, like you said, like you miss a train and you can't go somewhere, it's funny what else presents itself that day. And maybe that's what you needed without realizing. It's like surrender into the process of your life rather than fighting against it. If you start seeing your life as your soulmate, which isn't always easy to do every day, but when I'm having days where I'm like, ooh, tense, I'm like, okay, breathe. And I start seeing my life as my soulmate. Like, my life wants what's best for me. This hasn't worked out how I want, but maybe my life wants different. So if today's meant to be a chill day, I'm taking it as a chill day. It just makes it easier to manage as a human, especially when when you say have stressful days, I would look at you and go, I see stress, but it's probably more pressure because of the job that you do than stress.
Yeah, and it's also like I've put that on myself, and like that doesn't mean, I think the difficult thing is like what you're not trying to do by getting into this mindset is like cancel the fact that you can have trauma and stress and overwork and burnout and like a horrible thing happened to you and all of these things. Like it's probably not helpful someone being like, but aren't you glad that happened for your like career? You're like, literally imagine the shit I've gone through.
If I was like, oh, but like you'll have a bad day, and you go, but at least you're here. And it's like, so I can't be pissed off ever again.
So I'm never allowed to like have a shit fit.
But you know what? I will be honest. So my really lovely friend Dame Deb died last year, and she died like at 40, so young, so full of life, like even to the very end. And one thing she said, and she said it in her eulogy, and she said it to us, and I'm living by it at the moment, is that she said, if you wallow, and if you're like wallowing, even if it's like sadness for me or anything you're doing, you're not giving me justice. You're wasting, like she would have given anything, like precious time for one more second, one more minute, one more hour, one more day to do and live. So when I have days where I am overwhelmed and stressed, I allow myself to have that moment, process it, feel it, be like, tomorrow's a new day, and then like come back at life again. Because I do think about that a lot. I'm like, I don't want to waste time unnecessarily wallowing. It's okay to have down days and be stressed and stuff, but you can stay in those moments. And I think I learned that it's okay to be afraid and traumatized and go through sadness, but it's almost like you have to make a plan to get out of the hole.
Yeah, and it's also like when it's not about promoting suppression. Like none of this is about suppressing your emotions.
No.
It's
the
about
opposite.
feeling your emotions and being able to process them in order to be able to move on. And like that doesn't mean that something isn't going to be like hugely traumatic and horrible and you wish it had never happened.
Yeah.
But it's about being like, okay, but it happened, and how am I going to move on to the next stage of my life or whatever it might be to be able to like, you know, turn this into something good. Because like when you start thinking of that, like my life just works out for me, it's like you do just start shifting that in terms of the way of like, that doesn't mean that that wasn't a horror, like someone did something terrible to me, or like, you know, never taking that away and never taking away the blame from other people and like all of these terrible things that can happen, but also being able to be like, but in order for me to be able to like still make the most of my life or my day or my week or whatever it might be, like what can I do to turn this into a positive?
And it's like, and also it's the surrendering. Like some days you're going to be so beaten up by life that you're not going to want to, and it's like, if you're feeling that you need to take to bed early, if you're feeling that you need some time, if you're feeling like you need therapy, if you're feeling like I need a break, I need to go away, if you're feeling like you need help with the kids or the dog, in my case, like do it, ask for the help, because I know firsthand the state that I ended up in beginning of last year and the end of the year before was because I didn't do that. Was because every time something bad happened, I would do something, whether that would be getting back with an ex or throwing myself into work. I wasn't allowing myself space to grieve, to process, to heal. Something so traumatic happens. It's not just like, oh, I did a week's worth of therapy, I'm fine. It's years of embedded trauma. Then that will, like, other things will happen in the process, you know, like just because one bad thing happened in life doesn't mean it will never happen again. And so my dear friend Sima, who's not with us anymore, she was one of the most incredible women I've ever met, in that when she was dying, she was fully in her death. So she surrendered to the process. She wanted to feel all of the emotions. She wanted to understand what was happening to her body, to her brain. She was very articulate with it. And rather than fighting against it, she went with it. And I learned so much from that. And she's always just said, like, sometimes you just need to surrender. And that's what I've done. Like, that's my big learning in like the last 5 years. It isn't surrendering, oh, I just give up and throw my hands up. It's surrendering to wherever you're being taken.
Like, this is the journey. Let's
just let go, see where, like, meet your body, meet your life, meet your brain, where it is. Where is this? And then once you've settled and landed, then you're in a place to make decisions. And I think that's when you make the right ones, because you're not acting off of too much emotion. Like, my decisions are always made with the heart, always heart-led. But I have to try and use my head in terms of, is this the right decision now or whatever? But reacting off of the back of it, like an emotion, like a knee-jerk, is never the right move. And I used to be terrible at that.
And I think it is like I don't know, I think we have this assumption that we know ourselves well, and therefore we always know what's best for us. And I actually think we need to, at the very least, know the areas that we don't know well. So I don't know when I need to slow down. I don't know when I need to say no rather than say yes. I don't know all of these, and I'm training myself better, and I'm noticing patterns. It's like,
you're self-aware, that's the start, mate.
Right, well, it's probably like, but you know, I'll see an opportunity and I'll be like, I don't know whether I'm self-sabotaging by saying yes or no. And you start to notice patterns. It's like, you're probably saying yes really quickly and then it's wrong, or you're probably saying no because it's a fear of it, or because it's like you're telling yourself you need to slow down, but you don't actually, you're kind of fine, like all of this. And so I think this like process of like learning yourself, and even like, it sounds so stupid, but like even taking notes of like, don't make a decision on a bad day, or like, don't do this or don't do this, and like actually understanding where you don't know yourself and where you're probably never going to know yourself. So say if you, as you say, you're a doer, so something bad happens to you, you distract yourself by doing more, understanding that like, okay, maybe after something bad happens, you don't decide something for 24 hours afterwards, or like whatever it might be, and just like writing like an instruction manual for yourself. Like, it sounds so stupid.
So I read a book, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it's called now, but I read it in Mexico beginning of last year when I was in a bit of a bad way. My friend recommended it, and it's amazing. It is about divine timing and giving over to the divine and just going, right. And there were so many things in my life that I was like a real like crunch point, and I couldn't figure it out. I was like, what's the right decision? What should I do next? And rather than making the decision, like they advise in the book to make, they call it the God box, but I'm not religious, so I just like called it the box. And I would write on a post-it, like, whatever it's like, dear universe or dear divine, I'm struggling with this. Please help me find the right conclusion at the right time in the right way for the greater good of all. Because you don't want to call in something that could be damaging to other people.
Right, when you're being like, oh, I hope this relationship lasts forever, and you're like, actually,
exactly fine. So I wrote it all and I folded it up and I put it in the box, and almost the action of doing it is like, you're coming back to it later already.
Yeah, I have a really similar response to this, and I'm not that. I don't know. I don't. You know, once again, TikTok. I scroll past a lot of the things that are more like about not spirituality. I would say that I'm quite like a spiritual person in terms of like understanding myself and like the world and all of those things. But like I'm not as, I don't know. I don't listen. Like there's not.
You're not burning sage and praising
exactly.
the moon.
Like as in that's not as much what I do. What I did do in August, there was like, once again, I scrolled past a TikTok. I'd just like to preface this by saying that I actually don't scroll that much because it really doesn't like, I'll probably have once a week, I'll have a mindless scroll. Yeah. But the rest of the time, I know it's bad for me because I think it's relaxing me and it's actually stimulating my brain. It's overstimulating.
We just need to go on this so we can keep up to date with the kids.
Well, exactly. No, I like that one. I'll be using that. But essentially, there was this one thing which was like, and I was having a bit of a tough time. And it was essentially like, today is the best day to manifest. And it said like, write a diary entry as if you are this date in 2023. So you're writing a diary entry, you're being like, this was really shit last year, but this is really good. I'm so glad I have this, like all of this. Like you are writing yourself in the future. And I used to do this with professional bios. So you know how you have like a professional bio that it's like, Grace Beverley is this, this and this. I used to write my professional bio in the future. So it's like, she's had this, this and this. Things I hadn't got, but it's like putting yourself in that position. I've done the same thing. It's great. It's a really, really good exercise. And I did this thing where I wrote a diary entry in the year in advance, and it had things about my work, about my personal life, about my home, about financials, like all of these different things. And I wrote it, and like I didn't know that I wanted half of those things, and I wasn't able to kind of like cement exactly what I wanted until I wrote down that diary entry. And I ended up writing like 4 pages.
You do.
Like,
you're just like, babe. Yeah.
Exactly. Like it probably took me like an hour. And I wrote it, and then I found it the other day and I read it, and like so much of it had happened. And I was like, I don't think I even knew that I wanted that before that point. And I'm not even a person who like regularly manifests or regularly does gratitudes or any of those things. It doesn't, it doesn't feed me in the same way as it does some people. But like, I did that and I was like, like even just as a method of goal setting, it's so hard to understand what you really want. And sometimes you just need to sit there and write a literal future diary entry.
Because people think like manifestation and stuff is this idea that like you write down, I want this, and it comes to you. It's not. It's like getting really clear about what's important to you and what you'd like to call into your life. Because then without realizing it almost, you start to make decisions and gravitate towards those things. And also what's really good about it is you will end up gravitating towards the things that you put in there. And then what's so nice about it, if it's not going to work out, it doesn't work out, and then that's ticked off your list. It's not ruminating anymore. Yeah, and because I've got so many friends. I had a conversation with my mate yesterday. She's wanted to do this literary podcast for ages. You know who I'm talking about. I'm not naming you. And she is like, I need to do this pitch. I'm like, you've been talking about it for 2 years. Yeah. I was like, do you know what, babe? She's like, but I've got imposter syndrome. I'm like, make the pitch, go out and do it. Start doing it. If in 6 months it's not working out, you've ticked it off your list. It's done. It doesn't take up any more space. But at the minute, it's a thing that you've not done, and now you're thinking about it all the time and beating yourself up. I'm shit, I've not done this, I've not done this. It's such a drain of energy, and it comes from a lack mindset. It's like there's more than enough for everyone in this world. Put out what you want to put out. Yeah. But do it because you want to do it and love it, not because you want to be like splashed all over a magazine. Like, yeah.
I also feel like with those imposter syndrome things, it's like, do you know what? No one's going to care if you don't do this. Like the only person who's going to care if you don't do this is yourself. So true. Because you're sitting there and you're not doing this. And I completely understand imposter syndrome. I think a lot of it comes from...
Mate, I'm the queen of it.
But yeah, and it's like a lot of it comes from terrible things in terms of like not seeing ourselves in positions like that. And like as, as women or as a minority or whatever it might be. Like people who are, like there are going to be people who have a lot more imposter syndrome because they don't see people in those positions that represent themselves. But I will say as well, when you're stopping yourself doing something because of self-doubt, like at the end of the day, at the end of this week, if you've said you're going to do something and you haven't done it, no one else gives a fuck. Yeah. It's only you that you're not doing that for. Another thing I thought was really interesting in terms of that like manifesting thing is, and I'm coming onto this because I want to talk with you about dating. Yes. So me and my friend, not the other day, like a while ago, were basically saying, because we haven't like grown up around a lot of like, I don't know, I'd say like romantic love, like seeing it really like workout, whatever it might be. And so we were both saying that we're kind of like quite naysayers in terms of being like, does it really, like, is it, like, sure, it's great, but like, is it,
is it
all
real?
of exactly, like all of these things. And we were like, do you know what? We're never going to have a healthy relationship in the way that we see what we want or like know what we want to go for if we don't know, if we aren't able to like see ourselves in that position. And it wasn't even necessarily that we like wanted that at that time, but it was kind of just being like, we actually have no tangible vision in our head of what that would look like. And therefore, how on earth are we expected to like, say, go on a date and think it's a good date and, maybe get into a relationship with someone down the line, whatever, if we don't know what good looks like and we don't know what we would be going for. And literally we were like, we need to sit down and we need to literally write like, what does this look like? Because we've been so like not surrounded by it that we actually have no vision of like, what also, does it look like? Like
I said, on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, there's all these things about green flags, red flags, all these things. It's actually overwhelming. Like we're being thrown at us like what a good relationship looks like. And it's like...
But also there's such different types of relationships. I had a podcast the other day with do you listen to Girls Gotta Eat?
Yes.
Yeah. So like I did a podcast with those girls and they were... one of them was saying like, she was like, yeah, I don't have a lot of time to give to a relationship. I'd love a relationship, but they probably, I'd assume that like good relationship for me would look like they wouldn't live in the same city as me. It would be like, we'd see each other a bit less often, but it would be really great. We'd support each other, all of this. It's like that on TikTok would not look like a good relationship because you're not spending a lot of time together. You're not doing this. You're not doing this. You know exactly what you want from a relationship though, because you don't want someone who you're chilling with every Sunday. You want someone who's like emotional support, who you talk to a lot, who you grow it, like building a team with, building a career with, but you're not seeing that much. And it's like, we accept these forms of like, this is what you want from external sources before, and this is what my friend was saying, it's like, it probably doesn't look traditional in this way, it probably does look, weird to some people in this way, but this is the only thing I actually want within that relationship. I think, I always think that's really, really interesting, especially when looking at social media, and it's like, you're fed this, like, we think we're moving forwards in a lot of progressive ways, which we are in certain senses, but actually in terms of enforcing traditional, kind of views of like relationships in terms of what's good, what's bad. I think we're actually like...
And judging other people's relationships, that's not your business.
No, not at all. So how... Were you dating at the time that you got your diagnosis?
I was shagging.
Yeah, good.
I was shagging, and to be honest, I'd been like burned, and I think I will always say, like, when it comes to romantic love and relationships, that's my Achilles heel in life. Everything else in life, I can work towards, I work hard for, I'm comfortable with, and I accept. I really struggle with the element of bringing someone else in who can have an impact on my heart. And that's just from being burned, but who hasn't been burned? And I think what I realised when I got, this is so funny actually, I forgot I said this. When I got told I had cancer, I went, oh my God, I don't want to die. And the consultant looked at me, I went, I've not got married or had kids. And then I was like, who said that? Where'd that come from? Because I think at some point in my head, that is the goal, right? And you always just assume.
Or like until you've completed that, you've not done the life.
Yeah, that's the next level. That's like the Bowser stage, you've got to get to that bit. And I just was like, oh my God, I didn't know I wanted those things. And actually what's been really wonderful over the last 5 years is challenging my relationships with that. Because like I've genuinely never felt like I want to be, like I've never felt like I have to be a mum.
Yeah.
I've always felt like I'd love a family. It feels different. Because that doesn't necessarily mean I would give birth. But that family unit I love. But I did always know that I wanted to find a partner that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. I'm not religious, it's not like this thing, but I just knew that I'm a Taurian, right? I love stability and I'm very like loving and loyal. So for me, that feels safe. But I think growing up, you panic, you're never going to find it. And so you go for the wrong people and out of desperation, date the wrong people. And when I got sick, I'd said that to myself. So what do you do when you realise, oh my God, I have been closing off my heart to the world. I need to make myself vulnerable if I'm to love again. I know, I'll apply for first dates. So I actually applied for it before I got sick.
It's the only logical
conclusion. So yeah, I did. I applied for it before I got sick. They called me back when I was in chemo. I explained to them I was sick and they were like, do you still want to come on it? I mean, really bad due diligence. I was like, absolutely not. I look like a potato, never going to happen. And they said, well, we love your application. Please reapply. when you're ready to. So when I was on the mend and my hair had grown back and I was feeling more like myself, I applied and I got on instantly. Like I did the application, I was like, did my interview in September, and in October I was been flown to Napoli where they filmed the hotel. And it was this big moment because I think in my head, where I'd gotten cancer-free, where I'd started having this conversation on a podcast, I'd gone back to work, everything was moving in the right direction. I'd almost convinced myself this was the moment. I'm going to find the love of my life. It's happening now. God has taken the wheel. I've not chosen him. They've chosen for me. La la. Whereas actually, if I went on it now, I would take it with such a big pinch of salt and have a laugh. But I went on it, and then I got matched with someone that I know. And it was when you walked through the door.
What are the chances of that?
I know. Well, see, this is me again, like a little romantic head. Yeah. So he walked in and my heart sank because I was like, he doesn't fancy me. Like, this is such a waste of time. This never going to happen. But then because my life had completely changed, I was like, who's to say he doesn't fancy you?
Yeah.
Who's to say?
Which is the right mindset to go into it with.
But so I kind of went, all right. And I did say to him at the start of the date, which they didn't show, I said to him, I said, what should we do? Should we have a mate date or a date date? Because we knew each other and I didn't want to make myself vulnerable.
Yeah,
if you were
then, like, if there was no chance.
If there was no chance. And he put his hand on my thigh and went to see what happens. So I was like, I am in.
Yeah.
So I fully opened myself up.
Yeah.
And I said yes and he said no. And then when he walked out the room, I burst into tears. It's on national television. I cried over a boy. We've all got the same friends. It was probably the most vulnerable and open I've been in terms of my heart ever. And I took a lot of learnings from it, and it really hurt me, him saying no, because I thought, as a friend, you could have just said
yes.
He was moving away the week after. I had no idea. He didn't tell me. So I was like, you could have just told me that. You could have said, let's have a mate date. We would have had the best time ever. Like, I just felt like mugged off and made a fool of and embarrassed. And I think that has a lot of similar traits to being cheated on, or, you know, someone breaking up with you and going out with your friend, like all the things that happened to me in the past that have made me hardened.
Yeah, and it was a series of things for you in your life that had led up to this moment. Mm-hmm. So perhaps like in that moment, he didn't know that it would have like such gravity.
He had no idea.
Which I think is, but like for you in that moment, it's been like you'd
huge.
Reapplied, you'd gone out there. I assume, I mean, from what you said, it sounds like it was the first time in a while you were being like, I'm putting myself out there, like I'm doing all of this. And that's such gravity for you in terms of then just being like, no.
But then knowing, so they filmed it the year before it aired. So for that whole year, not knowing what the edit was going to be, for the whole year not knowing, knowing that I have cried in that room, that I, like, what are they going to do? And the thing is with it...
Did you contact them about it? Like, did you say?
We'd been talking about it. Like, we still are in contact now. Like, I love him to pieces. I think he did me dirty on that show, but I know it wouldn't have been intentional because I know he's got a good heart. So, and I do feel bad because he got a lot of stick afterwards. But what happened was, I went on that show, I made myself vulnerable. Off of the back of that, my management, my like old management, but my first management saw me and contacted me, massive agency, that like loads of things opened up for me, and it started this snowball effect, the podcast, everything, and it did change my life. And actually it just kind of almost like a payoff. Like, I put my heart out there and I gave myself over, and then I kind of got noticed for that, and people went, that's really brave.
Yeah.
And people can relate to this girl, and things started to happen. So it kind of made me realise, like, yeah, I didn't get romantic love, but I got the love of so many people watching that could relate to me.
Yeah.
It was a different kind of thing.
But I think
acceptance.
Yeah, but it was another one of those things of like, everything just works out for me. It's like, I thought in that moment that what I needed was romantic love.
Yeah.
What I needed was exactly what ended up happening. Yeah. Like, you know, say if he had said yes, and then also had gone away the next week, sure, he could have done that to save face, and it would have been like probably a nice thing to do, so, especially as you knew each other. Yeah. But you then, I assume, wouldn't have come out of your shell in the same way on TV. You probably then wouldn't have been contacted in the same way because it wouldn't have made such a moment. Like all of the, not that you wouldn't have been anywhere and it was amazing, but like as in like it would just have been a different moment on TV.
It was like, over 2 episodes. They like cliffhangered it and everything. So it was, and
they made a thing of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And also what was so weird is that the episode aired the night before Rachael, my other podcast co-host, died. So it was this perfect media storm I was struggling with, but it just kind of, the way everything happened was so surreal. God. But I now know it was probably one of the most formative weeks of my adult life, other than the diagnosis and other things, but it changed a lot. And then in terms of like dating, I have made myself vulnerable, but I think what happened is I got to a certain point where you want it so much that it is bad for you. and I'm not an apps now or anything because I just find they don't really work for me. I don't do things half-assed, and never have, and I don't think I ever will, because if I do, it means my heart's not in it. And so when I go on the apps, it's like I really want to meet someone, and I'm dating these people who aren't right for me and clinging on to things that don't work for me, and I know it. My inner self is going, this is not it.
Yeah.
This is not it. And now I'm in this place where actually, rather than putting energy into finding someone that will fill this void in my life, I have created a life that is so abundant in love. And it's not necessarily romantic love. It's friends, it's family, it's my dog, it's my home, it's the way I love myself, it's my work. It's so much greater than that I know, like, people ask me about dating, and I'm like, I know, and I can't explain it to people, but it's here. I know the relationship I'm meant to be in is going to happen.
Yeah.
I am not going to go and spend energy trying to make it happen, because everything else in my life I've surrendered to.
Yeah.
And actually, the best thing I've done is made a life that anyone who comes in now would add value to. And actually, I've made a life that I don't want to risk. So if someone comes in and they treat me badly and they make my world wobble now, they're out.
Yeah. Which I think as well, like, as in looking at how that's having like meant to happen in the way that, like, yeah, sure, you could have been in a relationship at the time of your
I could be in a
diagnosis.
relationship now.
You could,
Yeah.
anyway, like, I think this is so important.
Yeah,
like,
you could be in a
what I
relationship.
often tell, like, we all have friends who, like, put a lot of emphasis on and often end up getting back with the wrong people and, like, all of this. Like, it's such a natural thing.
Yeah.
But being able to say, being like, look around. You could be in a relationship right now. Do you know how empowering it is knowing that you are choosing not to be in a relationship? And you think you couldn't. You could go on an app tomorrow, find someone who's also in a place like you and really wants a relationship and isn't right for you and is a bit, I don't know, a bit manipulative or like any of these things. Yeah. And you can do it. You can do that, but you are choosing not to. And I think that is really, really important to remember, especially in a point where, like, it is so frustrating to be in a point where you want a relationship and you are not finding one. Like, of course it is. Like, it is torture in a way because you're like, I'm ready for this and all of that. But in that time, for you to have built a life where you were not a half to come into a relationship and make whole, like, you are 100%, and anything on top of that would bring your life to 200% or an addition or whatever. I just think I wanted I think for so long, like, my idea of a relationship was someone that made me feel a certain way, and I've managed to make myself feel that way all on my own. So actually having someone to share this amazing ride called life with would be brilliant. But I don't want a person to share it with. I want the person to share it with. And I'm very open to dating. I'm very open to the right person. But I've done the apps. They don't work for me. So I would rather just not date anyone and then meet someone randomly and then date them, and they may not work out, and they may not date anyone again for a year. I am fine with that. Yeah. I absolutely 100% know that by me making this decision, it's leading me to the right person in the right way. Yeah. And I'm really excited. Like, you can tell when I talk about it. Like, I'm really excited for that moment, because I know it won't be forced, and I know it will be good, and your relationships will come at the right time. But it will be easy. And I just, especially, like, I'm sure you can relate to this. When you're someone who has built a life for themselves, or success on their own, and have a lot going, like, I'm a busy woman. The amount of men I've dated that do not know how to be with me, because I have a profile and people know who I am, and I work really hard and I do all these things, and I'm not that. And they're not going to be your main concentration. Like, you believe in, like, you love, and you're going to really spend you want to spend a lot of time with them, and you're really going to care about them, but they are not going to be your entire world. Yes. And that challenges some views of dating, especially as a woman, especially when you care that much about your work. Like, there will be more men out there who think that that's probably not what they want to go for than it is the opposite. Fine. And also, you added on the layer with me, Grace, where I have had cancer, and there will be people. I had my ex-boyfriend turn around to me and said, "You're gonna die." When we were dating for the first 3 months, I didn't know where I stood with him at all. I was like, is he seeing other people? Is he not? We're spending a lot of time together, but I don't speak to him in the week. It was very Spencer Heidi the Hills. I didn't know what was going on. The goal relationship. The goal. The pinnacle. I've always been working towards that. Oh my God, I've been watching it again recently. That's why the references come in, and I just cannot believe these men exist and they got away with it. But that's another podcast. A Hills podcast we could do together. Can't wait. But he was acting a way, and I was like, right, I just need to be brave and ask the question. And I said to him, he doesn't drink, and we were walking past the pub. I went, "Can we just go in here, like, grab a Coke or something? I just really want to talk to you." And I sat down and I was like, "I'm really nervous, so just let me get it out." And he went, "Has your cancer come back?"
Not, am I being a prick? Has your cancer come back? So this is the kind of thing. And plus the fact as well, like, I don't know.
That was his answer to what you said.
Yeah, I said, no, it hasn't. So that has been ruminating in his head. He was going out with a girl who had cancer, so he's probably thinking, oh, is the cancer going to come back? So it's all these things in my head. I'm like, what are you? And then, you know, the added layer of, you know, pregnancy might not be as straightforward for me as other people. That's if I choose to have children. I still don't know if I want to be a maternal mother. My ideal right now is meet a divorced, wonderful man who's got a young child that I can be a stepmom to, because I'm great with kids. Do I want to procreate mine? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's finding as well, I've got that layer. So I might find the right guy, but we might want totally different lives.
I think even in you saying, like, my perfect person now, like, has had a previous significant relationship, had a kid, all of that, I don't think you would have thought that, like, 5 years ago, because you would have seen, like, the traditional view of, like, I want this relationship so much. For you to be able to be like, for someone else, that might be like, oh, you know, that's not for me. You know exactly that is exactly what would fit with your life. And do you know how powerful that is? Like, the fact that you know that.
But it's also as well, it's like, I've got my niece, my nephew, I've got all my friends' children, like, I adore the way I love them. I can't describe. So why wouldn't I love on someone else's child that way? It's just that I've lost so much of my life to an illness and to grief and death. I'm now in my late 40s. And it's like, if I get to like 42, 43, do I then want to have a child? I don't know. That could change. We could be talking again when I'm 43 and I've got a litter of children. Do you know what I mean? All 9 of them. But the thing is, for me right now, I am so much more open to that possibility of a relationship in that way. And I think what it does, it allows me to have a relationship and grow and love and develop this bond with someone without it being this TikTok. Yeah, so it means that I get the chance to like bond with someone and grow a relationship without it being a TikTok of a body clock. Like, actually, it could be, for me, it's like meeting someone again in my mid-20s. I've had 5 years pretty much, like, of figuring things out. And it's a blessing and a curse. Like, I genuinely feel I'm at the point now, Grace, where, you know, I'm stepping back from the podcast. I'm 5 years cancer-free. I'm living on my own. I love my career. Everything that's happening, now I'm making decisions for a future, which I didn't before. I was so cancer-heavy. I've got my dog. I'm very content and happy in a way I've never felt. And I'm really, really excited about the future. And I just feel like I know myself. I feel like the last 5 years have led up to this. And I think if I'd have met anyone in the last 5 years, I wouldn't have been able to sustain a relationship.
No, and if you did, it was probably going to be the wrong relationship as well, because it's based on wanting to sustain a relationship rather than wanting to, you know, create the right thing.
And I have this saying, I've always said, it dust settles, not me. But the thing is, I now realise that I wasn't settled. I was still all up in the air. So I'm just really excited now for like this kind of new part of my life and what that holds. And I've kind of got ideas about what that looks like. I've got my own personal website. So to kind of go back to my blogging era, but obviously a lot more fully formed and profesh. New website launching this year. So it means I can write again and create content long form. That isn't all about algorithms. Can't wait. Starting off my own podcast. That has nothing to do with cancer. Like looking at doing documentaries and all of these things that I never thought I'd have the option to do 5 years ago. I'm now leaning into this new life I've created for myself, and I'm really excited by that. And, you know, that's why when I went and talked at my old school and people were like, did you always know it's what you wanted to do? And I said, no, I found myself here. And I think we need to really hit that home to young people. It's good to have an idea of what you want to be, but the plan is going to change. Lean into it, don't fight it. And you will never, like, your life will just happen for you in ways that are so magic. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Like,
oh, honestly, it makes me like so happy to even just listen to you talking about it. I'm so excited for you. Like, I just can't wait to see what happens.
I know, please let it be good, Chorus.
It will be.
But
and like,
that's my anxiety talking.
Yeah, but like it will be, and any moment that's not is forming the next moment of what it's meant to be.
It is what it is. And like, also I think, without being too like, I've got this whole book in me that I'm going to pitch this year, and it's around grief and death and our relationship with it, because it's something I've really had to face. And I had health anxiety since I was 16. I was convinced I was going to die from 16 and then got cancer at 31.
Right.
Do you imagine what that does to your head?
Yeah.
And then I've had to bury a lot of my friends. And I have this thing about getting to 40. I'm so scared I will die at 40 because I've had a lot of people die at 40. So it's like this challenge to get past it and do it. And I know I just like, no, I will be. But I've also got very comfortable with the fact that just say I do. I know that I will go to sleep having made the mark that I want in this world, having lived the life I'm proud of. And that has been the big game changer, because I used to be so scared to die that I wasn't living. And now I live in case I die.
You're amazing. That's honestly, I feel like I've had like a...
Therapy.
Yeah, like
I'll give you a check.
Thank you so much. No, honestly, thank you so much. You've been
Thank you.
absolutely incredible. This has been one of my favourite podcasts I've ever recorded. Honestly,
I've had such a good
I
time.
needed this. So thank you so much. Thank you
Thanks,
for sharing
Jo.
everything.
No, my pleasure.